Welcome to the first edition of the Mayor's Corner on Channel 15. My name is Jim Brown, Mayor of Cedar Falls, and the goal of this program is to have a conversation about various topics towards Cedar Falls economic development. Looking over the success of Cedar Falls' economic landscape, obviously countless folks are involved and countless folks get the credit. I'm going to start the conversation with Bob Seymour, an individual who's instrumental in terms of how, over the years, over a couple decades maybe, instrumental in how Cedar Falls has grown and how Cedar Falls is prospering now and into the future. And Bob, all started at a high level. Just a few weeks ago, Cedar Falls broke another record. We had the old record, if I understand, for new taxable valuation construction was $125 million. And we went just a shy over $150 million for that sort of number. What are the primary factors that you believe led to this record growth in Cedar Falls?
Well, first off, again, thank you for having me, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to be here on your first show. Yeah, it was quite a year. It really was. In 2012, I think we hit about 124 million, as you mentioned, and a little over 151, I think, this year. And to me, the real neat thing about being able to set that record is we saw growth in all sectors of development in town. We saw it in the retail side, the commercial side, industrial, healthcare, residential. So it was really a well-rounded record, if you will. And the other unique thing is we saw it in all areas of town, which was, that's pretty satisfying to know that every sector and every area of town has experienced growth.
That's excellent. And just describe to the folks why this record construction is good news for Cedar Falls, for the residents, in terms of tax base, how it actually helps citywide.
You bet. First off, it shows that things are happening in town. When we bring a company or a prospect in from out of town, they see things that are going up, they see projects that are going on. So from a marketing standpoint, it certainly helps us when we have those folks in town to show them there's a lot of positive things happening. And then from a taxpayer or citizen standpoint, with the new valuation, we're generating new taxable valuation, new tax dollars. So our tax rate, as you know pretty well, Mayor, has stayed relatively low. I think we're the second lowest out of the top 20 cities in the state of Iowa, which is something we're proud of. And this growth helps spread that tax rate over a much broader base.
It's excellent. So let me back up a little bit in terms of historically decisions that have been made throughout the city, decisions made by the state in terms of various regulations or different programs that we can have. Again, explain to the folks how potentially the TIF and CFU and maybe the overall entrepreneurial spirit our city seems to have, how it all ties together.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you mentioned, I've been doing this for about 26 years now, and going back to 1990, it all started with a real partnership with Cedar Falls Utilities. It starts with the partnership with the other economic development organizations in town, a partnership with the university. And we've been fortunate to tap into the resources of all those entities. And we put a plan in place primarily for the industrial park in 1990. And that plan with the future growth projections and everything has really mirrored what has actually occurred. And it's really neat to see that. And then in terms of using TIF dollars, there's always been a conversation about is TIF positive or negative, but I believe that the city of Cedar Falls has used TIF very responsibly, and we utilize those funds to buy land, to put in infrastructure, and really make Cedar Falls competitive on the economic development arena.
And so just to dovetail a little bit more with the TIF, it seems to make sense with the kind of growth we've had that the TIF district is South Industrial Park. But it's also, as I've understood it, it's also sort of grown to other areas of the city to be able to take advantage of that program.
Right. A couple years back, what we did is when we built the new Northern Industrial Park a few years ago, we actually connected the Southern Industrial Park to the Northern Industrial Park along the Highway 58 corridor. And the reason we did that is to utilize and capitalize on the revenue that was being generated in the southern portion of town to really pay off the debt and try to get the northern park up and running and try to create that momentum to keep that development going. And the unique thing about what we've done so far in being successful is when we need to buy land or we need to put in infrastructure, we don't have to bond for that anymore. we have sufficient revenue on the economic development side to take care of those projects internally and not have to go out and bond for them.
That's really a competitive advantage in terms of our city.
It is. It's a huge competitive advantage, and having done this a while, we have to have those sites ready to go, and if we didn't have that in place, we wouldn't be competitive.
Absolutely. Is there, going towards that larger number of the 151 plus, is there any particular part of the city that is growing quicker, faster, either this last year or into the future that you see?
You know, again, it's been really unique that all sectors have pretty much been equal in all areas of town as well. You know, the Viking Road Commercial Corridor has seen and experienced real strong growth. We've had several new projects out in that area and have a major project going on right now with Hobby Lobby, Dollar Tree, and Pet Supply, Inc. Also that Pinnacle Prairie Corridor, where we've had Unity Point start a new major medical facility. Pinnacle Specialty Care is doing a new project out there. That area has probably experienced the top growth in the city in the last year or two, but we're seeing it downtown. We're seeing it on College Hill. We're seeing it in the north, in the south. It's been unique, and it's certainly been satisfying to see that in all those areas.
Absolutely. So, just as a description, those TIF districts that we indicated and described a couple of minutes ago, we don't have a TIF district in other parts of the city, but it seems like we're still getting growth even down University Avenue with the construction. What many have referred to as the infill areas that are still taking advantage of that growth. Are those areas still growing and still viable?
We are, and again, we've seen growth along University Avenue. We have the new Natural Grocers store going up right now. Plans for Slumberland at the old Hy-Vee are in place to start here in the next couple of weeks. You know, we're seeing growth along that corridor, and obviously I think the city is anticipating that once the University Avenue project is fully complete, that will spur some revitalization along that corridor. And you know, from our standpoint, I think we'll have a good product to sell, and that corridor will become a much better place for reinvestment and redevelopment as well.
And switching gears a little bit, the single-family housing units is actually in decline the past couple of years when compared to the past 10 years or so. Do you see in your crystal ball just a trend happening there in terms of economic development towards housing?
I don't know if it's a trend. I think what we're seeing is there are quite a few subdivisions that are a little backed up right now. Our numbers in terms of available lots may be down a little bit. So we have several new subdivisions that are getting close to being finalized and approved. And hopefully in this next year we'll see some of those new subdivisions open up and try to bump that number on single family starts up again. I don't think it's probably an anomaly more than anything else, and I think it's tied to the inventory that's available to some degree.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know with the Chamberlain Alliance, they've given some different studies, and they've part of those studies have been a focus on the millennials. And how those individuals, as they stick around, as they are young, as they might be young, married, but no kids, that they're sort of trending in terms of renting places, or the State Street complex comes to mind because those folks don't mind moving in there because they get to walk everywhere. I wonder if that has any bearing on the actual lowering of the single-family housing.
I think it does to some degree.
Yeah.
You're seeing a different generation where they want to live, work, and play all in one area. And I think that's part of the reason why River Place downtown has been so successful. You know, the first building at 300 State Street is completely occupied. I think there's a good mix of what I'll call the millennials, the younger generation, as well as some of the older folks that are retired. The plans are to keep building those units downtown and providing that kind of new modern feel of live, work, play all in one area. And again, I think to some degree that has an impact on the single-family housing market, and you know, I think there's a happy medium to be successful in both.
I would agree. So now going to your somewhat crystal ball, because I'm sure you know some hard things going to be coming up this year in terms of folks coming. But what is the upcoming year looking like for the continued growth of Cedar Falls?
You know, on the industrial side, we have a couple of major projects that will be coming forward here. We're hoping one here that will be announced in the next week or two that we're optimistic about. But if you think about it, I think the school, the new elementary school out in the west, southwest part of town is on the drawing board, will be a major project. There's been talk about a new hospital up near Green Hill and Hudson Road, which would be a major project for the city of Cedar Falls. And we anticipate that that Pinnacle Prairie Viking Road commercial corridor will continue with the strong growth that we've seen here in the last few years. And I think there's reasons to be pretty optimistic right now.
Fantastic. Bob, thanks so much for your time, for your expertise, for your service to the city over the years. I just cannot convey enough to the citizens how great and opportunistic our staff is towards the economic development, the planning portions of that, and Bob is certainly one of those leaders in that area among many other. Thanks for joining us today in this short program. I hope it was informative towards what we have seen in Cedar Falls and what we hope to see as we plan towards the future. Take care.